morning, good afternoon, good evening. The late Julius Nyerere is one of Africa's leaders who many people who got to know him held him in high regard. He was a humble man and he genuinely cared about the people of Tanzania. I think no one will deny that he could have done a lot better for that country during his time as president. In that regard, that wasn't one of the things that people will remember him for his foresight and so forth. But he is one person where many people would say he did his best for the country. He genuinely cared about what happened to the country and the nation. And that is his greatest legacy. Unfortunately, what is happening to Tanzania now is probably his worst fears. The country seems to be drifting into anarchy, and all because of greed. It really is disappointing to see what is happening in Tanzania. Ben, welcome to the program.
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. Indeed, it is sad, the events that are taking place in Tanzania. Once a shiny example has now turned rogue. I would never have thought that the lady president would have taken this route in trying to cling on to power. But I mean, I wasn't surprised the moment I saw, some ZANU-PF characters with her. I knew something was up because, looking into history, every other president that has associated themselves with ZANU-PF, it has been elections that are disputed and, people taking to the streets afterwards and killings, brute force against, the people and so forth. It is indeed very sad. I really do, feel sorry for those that have lost their loved ones, those that have been hurt, in this here dark hour. It's really sad for democracy. It seems as if Africa is really failing to master the concept. We have the understanding, or the definition of democracy. It is the practicing that we really do not have.
Or let's just listen to the latest update on what is happening in Tanzania.
The streets of Tanzania's biggest cities woke up empty, not quiet, empty, not peaceful, tense. On a day that should be filled with flags, parades, and national pride, the country's 64th Independence Day has instead been swallowed by silence, a silence guarded by military trucks, police convoys, and unwavering government warning. Stay indoors. All gatherings are banned. This is an attempted coup. Yet videos still slipped through the digital cracks. Small crowds chanting Hatumutaki Samia Suluhu in Kariakoo, police firing tear gas, armored vehicles blocking roads, and activists posting that people are being abducted for simply stepping outside. This is December 9th, Tanzania's D-Day, and the question floating across East Africa today is simple. What exactly is going on? We start with the latest update. Protests have already kicked off in Dar es Salaam, Arusha, and several towns. Not huge crowds, because movement is practically illegal today, but visible enough to show defiance in a country where security forces have flooded the streets. The protests didn't emerge from nowhere. They were organized by opposition groups and civil society demanding President Samia Suluhu's resignation, accountability for alleged election fraud, release of bodies from October's deadly clashes, an end to what they call family based appointments in government. But by last night, the government had pulled a full defensive shift. The Prime Minister announced that only essential workers should leave their homes. Independence Day celebrations were cancelled. Police were deployed at junctions, markets, bus stations, essentially where crowds could form. These morning residents described their cities as open air prisons, movement restricted.
Try this strange 10-second eye flushing method to restore 20/20 crystal clear vision almost overnight. More and more people are trying.
Shops shuttered, roads blocked.
Sisi kama sisi mamake vibe kama lote hatufai mamake.
This is really tragic. This is not what the late Julius Nyerere would have wished for. Tanzania, I think it was one of the few countries, although it did not accomplish many economic achievements, it nonetheless was politically stable. And I think many people were seeing the country as making slow but steady progress. Yes, President Nyerere and his socialism did not accomplish much. In fact, I think in terms of the economy did suffer. But it was not so much because of corruption. It was maybe because of mismanagement. And the regime never at any point tried to hide its own failures behind power. What is happening in Tanzania now is a far cry from what the people of that country had hoped for. Yes, if we've got problems, let's solve them in an open and transparent way. The elections of October were not transparent. They were condemned by anyone who observed those elections. Here was a regime determined to stay in power at all costs, to the point of distorting the electoral process. And this has thrown the country into this political crisis. I think the important lesson that must be learned here is that once you have broken something, fixing it is not going to be easy. This is why you should be so careful that you don't break the system. Tanzania has never had violent elections. This is the beginning. This is the first time they've had it. The system is broken. And I think if they're not careful, this is not going to be the last. One can only hope that the nation will come together and find solutions that will fix the system. The present regime in the country has to accept that what happened in October is not right. And they should admit that and be willing to correct it. Any other pretense is not going to help the country move forward. This is the kind of thing that should not be swept under the carpet, because it will only fester. You have to look at countries like Zimbabwe. We have failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. And the regime has now been so deeply entrenched that changing it is even more difficult now than ever before. We have already had a military coup in 2017, an electoral coup in 2008. And now the regime is so deeply entrenched that Mnangagwa rigged the 2023 elections and is even boasting that the opposition are now in his deep pockets.
I'm happy kuti in Zimbabwe hakuna friction between the ruling party and the opposition party. But it is critically important that we must have an opposition which must check on the ruling party. So members of the opposition, make sure you deal with the ruling party. Don't make them sit. Make sure you make them busy, the opposition. Musamboregera. Nyanga vakadini rambai muchingo criticize kuseni masikati criticize. That way, munovabatsira kuti varambe vari mupower. Nokuti vanenge vachidiscover mistakes avo vachicorrect. Ivi muchingorova, nokuti mukasivarova vanorelaxa mozotora power. So my advice for opposition, please be serious no opposition. Ndokuti murambe muri mu opposition.
Welcome, Ben. Sorry you dropped out.
Sorry, I had internet challenges. We need to, make it very clear that holding elections is not a sign of democracy. A sign of democracy is holding free, fair, and credible elections. That is what defines democracy. So in Africa, we have made a big song and dance that, we hold our elections, no matter how flawed they are. I mean, we look at the Zimbabwean elections, that even SADC, the regional body, condemned those elections as illegal and flawed. We have to make that distinction. And I am glad that the people of Tanzania were able to make that distinction and made a bold stand to say, no, 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 no. You cannot just give us elections and that will be fine. We want free, fair, and credible elections. We want a meaningful say in who governs the country. And they spoke out. And when they were not given, they took action. And now the whole world is in support of them. So no matter how much, the lady president wants to try and cleanse the process and, say I'm going to have inquiries and so forth, it's not going to wash her clean. She has got blood stains on her hands. She has got illegitimacy, stamped in her rule. And that will be remembered forever. It is just unfortunate, how power hungry individuals will go to such lengths to try and protect, their hold on power. But the world sees who they are. The people of Tanzania see who she is, as an individual. And I'm really glad for that stance. I'm sad at one point to say, a lot of innocent lives have been lost. The number of people that have died has been hidden away, from the people, But a lot of people, we saw the evidence. People were killed for their rights. This is a lesson for us Zimbabweans. We are eager to participate even in rigged elections because it is our right. We do not have a right to rigged elections. We have a right to free, fair, and credible elections. And we must be able to make that distinction. And we must be able to stand like the people of Tanzania and say no to shameful elections. No matter how, the opposition can claim that they can win these rigged elections, it cannot happen. It is impossible. We have years and years of history that prove that it is impossible. And unfortunately, we seem not to learn, and we are so eager now to go into, the 2028 elections without even any meaningful reform that has been implemented, without even taking the recommendations that we have been given. And yet the opposition know about these recommendations. These are important for us to ensure that we have a rightful say and a meaningful say in who governs the country next. So the choice at the end of the day is we can stand up like the people of Tanzania, or we can be ourselves, participate in rigged elections, and cry the very next day. Choice is ours.
Well, my last word, before I give my last word, I'd just like to remind the listeners out there that tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday will be on this platform. If anyone would like to join us, the link is shown there at the bottom of your screen. We'll use the same link on Saturday and Sunday. We'll be discussing whatever is topical issue of the week. My final word would be, I would like to think that if the late Julius Nyerere was alive today, what you would say. I believe you would call the president and the party leaders that he led at one point and tell them that that is not the Tanzanian way of doing things. This is unacceptable. We have got to have peace in the country. We've got to have leaders who are accountable to the people. We must have people, allow people to have a meaningful say in the governance of the country. If we make a mistake and we are poor together. There should not be individuals who think they have the right to rule the country. The mistakes that were made in October's elections must be put right. I don't know. I think the best way would be for the country to go now into some GNU arrangement and they seriously look at the Constitution and how to strengthen the various state institutions so that the state institutions are never again captured by a few individuals. And they save the nation and prevent a repeat of what happened in October. It is a pity that Julius Nyerere cannot speak from behind the grave. But if he could, I believe that is exactly what he'll be telling the leaders in Tanzania and the nation at large. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.